6:30. Stay with us. It's time to join the BBC's news teams where you are. Goodbye.
Welcome to Wales Today. We're live on the summit of Snowdon. This is where the Olympic flame reached new heights, carried by the mountaineer Sir Chris Bonington.
This is part towards the end of a long journey of about 60 years, which started 60 years ago here on Snowdon when I started climbing as a young lad.
Fire and water on the Menai Strait as the torch is carried by boat on day 5 in Wales.
The streets beneath us would normally be bustling with rush hour traffic, but not today, as thousands of people line the streets waiting to see the Olympic torch.
Good evening, I'm live on the Pontcysyllta Aqueduct. Tomorrow the Olympic flame will be carried over here on a canal boat on its final day in Wales. Tonight it's been carried across the border into England by gymnast Beth Tweddle, but it'll be back in Wales tomorrow morning before leaving for good via Welshpool.
Good evening. Our other headlines tonight. They protested to save Prince Philip Hospital from downgrading. Now a leading negligence lawyer warns of the risks. The First Minister publishes his government's first annual report. So what have they really achieved? And a U-turn for caravans. The UK government changes its mind on tax.
Good evening from the summit of Snowdon. This is the highest point in Wales and England, and this is the spot where Sir Chris Bonington carried the Olympic torch. The cloud has begun to come down. You can't predict the weather on Snowdon, of course, but earlier the conditions were absolutely perfect for him to carry it to the top. Crowds were here to welcome him. You couldn't move in this spot. And despite the breathtaking views at the time, all eyes were on one thing, the Olympic torch. The start of its journey to the roof of Wales. The Olympic flame boarded the Snowdon Mountain Railway just after 9 o'clock this morning. In his 60-year career as a mountaineer, it was the first time Sir Chris Bonington had made the ascent of Snowdon on the train, but today was an exception he was happy to make. Many of the people waiting to welcome the Olympic flame had set off at dawn to walk to the top and watch Sir Chris carry the Olympic torch to the summit.
We actually camped further down at the mountain, so we started walking up last night, slept and made our way up this morning, probably about 8 o'clock.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance and, you know, carried her up here just so we could tell her in years to come, you were there.
We've had a great morning.
We've been up at 2 in the morning for.
We climb it quite a bit because we're local, but this is a lifelong memory, this one. Yeah. It won't happen again.
Sir Chris Bonington has just brought the Olympic flame down from the summit of Snowdon. He's here now, still carrying the Olympic torch, signing autographs. Sir Chris Bonington, how was it standing, being the highest man in England and Wales again?
It means a lot to me. I mean, there's a real lump in my throat.
A little bit of a legacy here today. Do you think it's going to mean a lot to these youngsters and it's going to be in their memory for a long time?
The real legacy of the Olympics as a whole is actually getting our young people out doing things, physically stretching themselves in whatever activity. There's so many different things, so many different disciplines within the Olympic movement, and each one of them is equally worthwhile.
A piece of history made here today. The Olympic flame has been to the highest point on its UK torch relay route. There was a party atmosphere on Snowdon, but the event had been planned as a military operation. As the Olympic torch was lit here, the convoy preparing for the next torchbearer in Llandudno had extinguished the torch on the ground. Only one can be lit at any one time. The torch has reached the highest point in its 70-day relay around the UK. The sun has shone on its journey through Wales so far, and for its trip to the top of Snowdon, it enjoyed perfect weather conditions. So it was a brief stop off here on the summit of Snowdon. The Olympic torch began its day on Anglesey in Beaumaris, and Thomas David had a bird's eye view of the route.
In gleaming white, Ellen Evans from Machynlleth is used to being in the limelight. 37 caps for Wales' rugby side, and she was the first woman to score a try at the Millennium Stadium. And today, she took to the waters with the Beaumaris lifeboat crew.
We're in the skies above the Menai Strait, tracking the Olympic torch's progress on the water. And the enthusiasm here for the torch is as strong as it is on land, with dozens of boats being a part of the Olympic torch relay.
Unbelievable. Just, all the crowd, you could see people along the estuary, and all the boats following, and then obviously the helicopter up ahead. It was unbelievable.
Safely back on dry land, the torch headed to Menai Bridge.
The streets beneath us would normally be bustling with rush hour traffic, but not today, as thousands of people line the streets waiting to see the Olympic torch.
With an impeccably timed fly-past by an RAF Hawk jet, Lucy Beasley made her way through the crowds, with everybody wanting a picture. And there was strong support too as the torch made its way through Conwy, passing the iconic castle. In Deganwy, it wasn't just the flame that was dancing. Then a trip in a cable car on the Great Orme in Llandudno, where Ian Turner was rewarded for his tireless work for various local charities, having run 20 marathons, raising hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Work alongside a lot of special people in the community. Their hands are on that torch as well today. I'm just a representative. I might be Ian, but there's an awful lot of hands on that torch today. They do so much in our community, so it's as much for them as it is for me.
There was plenty of support too in Penrhyn Bay and in Rhos-on-Sea. Former Welsh junior sports personality winner Jay Lusted took centre stage. 3,500 children from local schools were waiting for the arrival of the torch in Arias Park in Colwyn Bay.
It's very special. We're all here from Ysgol Bodfari in North Wales, having a fantastic day with all friends and kids. It's brilliant.
It's something that's only going to happen once in our lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've got to come and see it.
Yeah.
18-year-old Mabley Williams was nominated for her work for the Urdd Sports and helped the torch into Old Colwyn, before the torch weaved its way through Abergele and delighted holidaymakers in sunny Tyrone today. 34-year-old Nikki Coburn from Llandudno pounded the streets of Kinmel Bay after being nominated for her charity work. A group of school pupils from Frill High School did the honours in their hometown. They kept up with the pace in Rhyddlan as Paul Gavin carried the torch with a spring in his step. Finally, the torch lit up faces across Deeside, passing through Connors Quay, Shotton and Queensferry, before reaching Harden and the village straddling Wales and England, Saltney. World champion gymnast Beth Tweddle crossed the border to England, but the torch will be back in Wales tomorrow for its last day here, after an overnight stay in Chester.
Well, the sun is trying to break through the cloud here on Snowdon. It's a little bit chilly. Of course, the flame came up on the mountain railway, and Medwyn Roberts is from the company. Medwyn, a very important day for you all.
Yes, I mean, we've been looking forward to it ever since it was announced back in November time. It's a very historic moment for us as well, because there's a linkage between the Olympics and Snowdon Railway, in fact, because it was in April of 1896 that not only was the railway opened, but it was also the start of the modern-day Olympic Games.
So great to have that connection. The railway is always very busy, I know. Today, well, we were the first ones on board, the press, on the 7 o'clock train, and the crowds have been flocking up ever since.
Yeah, the turnout was immense. I mean, as this train was gradually moving upwards, and to see the actual support and to see Chris actually go to the top of the summit, and the level of applause that was to be heard from wherever you were stood here at the summit was brilliant.
So that lantern was carried in the carriage, and Sir Chris Bonington came up in the carriage, and he said to me, which was quite funny, well, I never thought I'd come up on the train, but what a day. of course, a day you're all going to remember for the company, which employs so many people here locally.
Yeah, indeed it does. I mean, we have a huge, vast number of seasonal staff, as well as we have our select number of permanent staff who make sure that the railway is running smoothly. But this is essentially a very unique attraction. We're the only rack and pinion railway in the United Kingdom, and also one of the oldest heritage railways as well.
Medwin, thank you very much.
Thank
Well,
you
there
very much,
will be more on the Olympic torch later. Banaz will be here on Snowdon. She's here with the weather forecast, and Claire Summers will be at the Pontcysyllta Aqueduct.
A leading UK negligence